Hey everybody, this is Jennifer, and we are continuing our GGYP Top Producer interview series. And I'm really excited about this week's interview because you can't get much more legit than this. She was just named Rookie of the Year for the entire Better Homes and Gardens network. That's nationwide. So that means she was the top sales agent for the newer agents that are out there. And so I think today's going to be great for new agents, probably anybody, but especially I probably did this too when I was newer. I used being new as an excuse to maybe not do as much as I should have. And so, and she obviously didn't. So we're going to talk about that today. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay. And so why don't you give everybody a little bit of background? Like how did you get into real estate? Like how did you get from being a brand new agent to where you are now? Kind of give us your story.
Yeah, so I was born in Houston. I grew up in Dallas, and Frisco area, and after high school, went to Texas State University in San Marcos, where I had the best 5 years ever, and then finally graduated because I had nothing left to take. I graduated with a major in communication and a minor in business and PR. And so I had no more classes to take, so I ended up graduating.
Hard.
I know. And then I moved back to Houston right after college to start a sales and start my corporate job, which was for a staffing company. And I always kind of joke because it was like the military, I think, of sales. That's really where I've always been drawn to sales and I always did sales type of jobs throughout, high school and college. But that's really where I learned like a lot of it being drilled into me. And I think at the time it was like my salary was $28,000. It was mostly commission based. And so anyway, so that's really where I began my career, and I quickly became pretty much like obsessed with my job. I worked 60 hours a week, and I saw a lot of success from that job. I mean, it gave me a lot of financial freedom, and so for that I'm always going to be super grateful. But I got to a point where it was like, I'm in my 20s at the time, and I'm like obsessed with my job. I'm working 60 hours a week, and my life, just not to sound so cliche, but it wasn't feeling super fulfilled. I quickly became obsessed with money and, obsessed with my job, like I said, and it wasn't fulfilling me. So I ended up, after being with that company for about 4 years, quitting my job. I sold everything, and then I went backpacking for a year across Central, South America, and Southeast Asia. And so I obviously something like that's going to change your life. And that was the whole point. And once I came back, to make a long story short, I knew I needed to obviously I needed to do something that I was going to feel really happy doing. It did not matter to me anymore if it was working, at Starbucks or whatever, but I needed to have freedom. I didn't want to be forced to wear stiletto heels and blazers and doing that job. I just didn't want to do that. And so after a lot of prayer and time thinking, and I decided that I wanted to get into real estate so I could still have that freedom, and do something that I love, while getting to still focus on, life and not getting super wrapped back into it. So that's kind of where I started. And then I'm here today. I've been in real estate for about 2.5 years, and I started with Gary Green. I went to school through Champions, and this is where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, I love that. I didn't know any of that about your background. So, but it makes so much sense because I do think people get into this job, they don't think it's sales. And it's a different kind of sales. You're dealing with people's emotions, it's not a business thing, but at the same time, it is sales. And I think the people that have sales training that came from maybe like a corporate job where they had to do outside sales, they get it. And they pick up the phone and they do what they need to do. And sometimes that's harder for people that come from other professions. So, and then you kind of got the clarity while you're backpacking about And now you get to be your own boss and you get
Yeah,
to work that
exactly.
hard for yourself. So that's awesome. Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I want to kind of pick your brain then because
Okay.
obviously you've been very successful in the short amount of time you've been doing this. So what would you say is maybe the main characteristic or quality that you see that sets agents apart? You know, from the people that really get after it and are successful versus the ones that tend to just kind of struggle.
Yeah, I think, one, well, that's kind of a loaded question because there's like a couple of things. One is you can't play victim. I think if I see anything the first thing is like, well, I don't know what to do and I'm trying. It's like you just have to get out there. I mean, so one, I mean, if you want the business, you just have to get out there. You need to go out, ask every person once a week to go have a drink or something. Like you have to physically be out there talking to people, not just holding open houses, but you have to be out there. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
And then I think what sets me apart and what can set many people apart is just genuinely caring. And sometimes I have to put myself back and focus and realizing that this is not this house is not me. And so it doesn't need to come home with me and just wear on me, all the time. But I genuinely care. And I think that that's what my clients love about me that makes me different is I truly care about them and I become passionate and I'm like, I want to sell this house for you and I want you to make as much money as possible. And I think that they see me being genuine.
Okay, that's awesome. So you touched a little bit on just getting out there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about prospecting. What did you do when it came to prospecting as far as trying to generate new business?
Yeah. So whenever I moved back, and I don't want to say this because I don't want to discredit because everyone has something that they can do to get out there. But what I had is that I hadn't seen anybody in a long time because I had just got back and everybody wanted to talk about it. So it wasn't as weird, I think, as I felt like it would be for me to reach out to my sphere and say, hey, let's grab a drink. Because I hadn't seen anyone for a lot of people, unless it was like a wedding or something, and well over a year when I used to see them all the time. And so that was part of what I would do for prospecting is I got my sphere. But I remember when they said like 100 people, and if you don't know 100 people, you might not be in the right business. And I'm like, I don't know. I know 100 people. And I think that that's okay. And truthfully, once you really start sitting down and you start writing out everybody, I remember writing down one of my best friends from college, her mom. And I'm thinking, there's no way. Literally just last week, who she lives now in like Arkansas, like nothing to even do here, but she just referred me somebody. So it really is just writing down your sphere, getting those 100 people, getting them into, and then now, thank God, we have impact because that is just amazing.
Yeah.
Getting those into impact and then just do nothing. Let that do that. And then getting out there. And then I definitely held open houses. I think I wasted the first year doing them all wrong. That's okay because it was, that's how I learned, I think hindsight, I think it'd be great to shadow somebody or go with someone so you can see how they're doing it. But,
okay, so what did you do wrong? You have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have I didn't have a speech. I didn't have a spiel. And so now, like, if someone comes in and they tell me they're a first-time home buyer, I'm sounding dramatic, but because that's how I have to do it, I freak out. Oh my God, that's so exciting. I love first-time home buyers. I mean, and I do. And it's not being fake. I love it. And that was, last year, I also for 2019 was national sales leader for the office. So I worked with the most buyers. So I can throw that at them and I tell them 90% of what I work with is first-time home buyers. So it took me a long time to figure out what my niche is, and which now is working with first-time home buyers and millennials. And I can morph that into whatever. So, if somebody says, well, what areas do you work? Well, since I work with millennials and they all want to be in the hot spots, I work in this area and this area. And so part of it was coming up with what do I do? I don't just sell homes in Houston. What do I do? Where do I specialize in? And then I don't know. I'm sure I was very awkward and a little weird and just, didn't have like the energy. I didn't pick the right open houses. I will never forget. I told an agent in our office that I would hold her house open on a Wednesday from like 6 to 8 or something. Like, why did I do that? I wasn't being very strategic either. And so being strategic, being picky, and coming out with the spiel and having that energy in the open house, I think is what I'm doing differently now that I'm seeing more success with.
Okay, that's good. So let's talk about mistakes then. So what mistakes do you think most new agents make, or maybe what are some mistakes that you made now looking back on it, or things that you wish you had done differently?
I think big part of it is financially. I mean, I am a firm believer. I'm pretty on top of it with my money. And I think that is what helped me so much, is knowing that I had that security. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you shouldn't get into real estate if you don't have 6 months of savings to live off of, not to where you're at zero, but to have 6 months, and then also have another, 6 months in your savings. So not everybody can have a year of savings. And I don't think that should stop you, but I definitely think it's very important because it helps give me the freedom of not having that stress like weighing me down. So I think that is one thing that's super important, because you're not going to sell house for the most part until 6 months. I mean, that's kind of how it is. I mean, for me, that's how it was. So I think that's one of it, just again, and I know I think so many people say it, so hopefully it shouldn't be a mistake, because you can't just get into this and get rich quick,
I wish they taught people that in real estate school, exactly what you're talking about. Because if you get in it and you can only survive for a couple months, well, you're not giving yourself enough time.
Exactly. I mean, you're starting a business. I mean, you're starting a business. Nobody you, and that's how you should treat it. So that's probably another thing, is a mistake that I definitely did. Mm-hmm. I think I was so to an extreme of anti-corporate when I got into it, that I didn't necessarily always put myself together like it was, like this was my job. I loved not wearing makeup, which is, nothing is wrong with that. I want to be very clear, nothing is wrong with that. But I do realize that there is a difference that comes when I come out and I meet someone at 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. It's not being put together. It just shows different. And it's just because I put the time and the energy into getting myself. So I don't think, again, this might apply to a lot of people, but it definitely applied to me, because I really enjoyed being able to have that freedom. Mm-hmm. But then at the same time, I'm still in sales, it is a sales job, and so that was another thing that I think more so recently, I'm like, okay, I gotta put on my makeup, I gotta do my hair and, and take that a little bit more serious. Yeah. I think those are the ones.
Great. Well, and I think the freedom of this job is what attracts a lot of people to it. And then I also feel like it's the death of a lot of people too, the freedom in this job. So you like having the flexibility, you like not having to go to a corporate office, but you probably have some sort of like weekly routine, like things that you do every week. So talk about that a little bit. What do you do every single week?
So I come to the office every single week.
And so, a lot of people don't do that. So
I'm actually here in our office right now. We're doing a little rearranging, so it's not as cute, but I do come to the office, and I always have came to the office. Monday through Friday, I'm here. Mm-hmm.
And don't you think new agents should be going to the office?
100%. Yeah. Like I mean, I would not have gotten where I am if I didn't. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, I hate being so cliche and repeating it, but it's true. You listen to what people are saying. Mm-hmm. I built relationships in the office. With relationships comes leads, especially if there are other agents and that have been in it for a while, and support and comfort. And you have to, make sure you're going around people that you want to be like, so the positivity and finding that. And that's how it was in my office with, I built a great little team of working partners and mentor. And so, I mean, that was definitely a huge part of it. I definitely do believe in the calendar blocking. On Mondays, I want to always try to watch a real inspirational, which I need to get back to watching your videos because it's on my calendar and it's perfect because they come out on Monday. So, I mean, in a perfect world, and I don't always do it, but it is blocked on my calendar to watch something inspirational. But I've also realized that sometimes for me, that might mean just doing, like, I have this thing called a 5-minute journal. So starting a day with gratitude or just whatever it is you need to do to start your day is something that I think is important. I'm a huge to-do list. I start my morning and I write everything out that I need to do. I try to touch 5 clients a day. I have all this on my calendar. So it's not, I don't just say, I'm like, oh, it's 12 o'clock, time to text 5 people, but I'll see it pop up on my phone and then just starts reeling in my brain. I'm like, oh, I need to text so-and-so back or I need to, so I do have calendar blocking and then I come into the office all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think so many agents don't do it because they don't know what to do when they come in the office. They just don't. And I'm like,
well, and that's part of it, because if you're sitting here, I can find plenty to do at home that has nothing to do with my business. This is a business.
That's
and so coming here, I can't, in the beginning, I would sit there and I take pictures of my little office set up with my coffee and I'd put it on my Instagram story. I mean, I fake it. You fake it, you make it. And so I think I probably spent more time just projecting, in the first first 2 years and just projecting and taking pictures and on the grind. And I'm sitting here like, I don't know what to do. But I mean, at the time I was doing so much property time and I was touring properties all the time too. So
that's something else that we tell agents to do that they don't do. So.
Yes.
And this is why I love having somebody like you on, because it's like, I think they hear it from their coach, they hear it from their manager, and they think, yeah. And so I love when they hear it from an actual agent who saw success from doing it.
Well, it didn't make any sense to me at the time. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, but it makes sense to me now. Opening up Lockbox and Supras, it's a piece of cake short, but sometimes things go wrong and it just helps equip you. Everything you're doing is just training. It's just all training. And so it doesn't make sense. But like, I used to do MapQuest for all my property. And I didn't realize that all you have to, you can do it in the MLS and it'll map them for you. Yeah. Well, once you start getting clients, if you don't already have that figured out, you're going to go crazy like I did. And so to me, it just allows you to have a lot of trial and error before you get it down. So that way you can be put together and have it together for when you're working with your client.
Better to do it on your own than in front of your client.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. So what would you say? So you've only ever been with Gary Green. I'm actually the same as you. I came here and just never left. So what would you say has been the best thing about joining Gary Green as a new agent?
The support. When I first interviewed with JJ, I'm in the West Gray office and JJ is my sales manager.
Shout out to JJ.
And she's right there. She's probably hearing me. Or she's in the office back there. But so anyways, I think when I first met with her again, I was pretty hard. I only want to make X amount of money because I don't want to get remarried to my job, which I just was telling JJ today. I have to refocus because I so quickly get wrapped up in it becomes my world and there's no off time. And I'm like, this is why I got into real estate. And so, but anyways, when I met with her, I had interviewed with other brokerages, they're like, when they asked me how much money do I want to make, and I think I said, well, I just want to make like $75,000. Mm-hmm. That's enough to keep good couple $20 bottles of wine in my fridge, trips wherever I want, and that's a good life. That's what I wanted. Well, with hard work, obviously it well surpassed that. But that was what I wanted, and JJ really supported that, and that was what drew me to her. Is that they cared more about how educated we are, doing a good job more than money. And when I told other brokerages, they're like, what? That's all you want to make? And it really just put me off because it was just, that wasn't the environment that I was wanting to go into. Mm-hmm. So that's what brought me here. And what's helped me stay is the support. And I've been able to be very candid with JJ about things that I need. and where I'm struggling, instead of just jumping over and thinking the grass is greener, talking with her, because, and that has happened, it's, you're going to hear all about obviously, I mean, this brokerage will pay you this much and this much, but I sat down with her and I expressed some of my concerns, and I just like you should be able to do with any job. And she heard them, and they continue to help give me additional, support, whether it's with back agent or whatever it is that I mean, something that is daunting to me, so I can focus out there on selling properties and doing what I want to do with my business, and helping giving me support. So it's definitely support. And that is a big part of JJ.
Great. Well, thank you so much for doing it today. I just think it's great. I think it's great for young agents to see, another successful young agent. I think it's inspiring for new agents to see that you don't have to be in the business for 10 years before you can really be successful. Like, you can hit the running and get after it. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate it.
We'll do another one where you can talk about how you learned to set boundaries and, and figure out work-life balance. But until then, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.